My next guest is on the comeback trail in the MMA world. Coming off a big win at OKTAGON 36, he will next be fighting at OKTAGON 44 in Germany on June 17th. Joining me today is John the Hitman Hathaway. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me on as well.
Oh, I'm pumped that you're here, man. It's great to see you back. So you had a few years away, but you're just coming off a big win. How did it feel being back in there?
It felt great, obviously he was like 9 years out in total in the end, and being able to get back in and do kind of what I love to do is just obviously an absolute pleasure and an honor. Finding the show like OKTAGON as well, which is one of the top European ones to have me on. And again, they got some good guys in the welterweight division, so hopefully we'll just get more good fights out this year.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of being thrown into the deep end in all honesty, because OKTAGON is not messing around. They're one of the major organizations in Germany, making huge moves in places like the Czechia, Germany, places like this. They're a great organization to be with, right?
Most certainly. And obviously I fought Germany last time. I've managed to obviously get back into the Germany card this time as well. So obviously I like fighting in Germany. It's always good. But yeah, they got Czech Republic. They fight all kind of like all over Europe. They got a Manchester card coming up as well in November, which will be amazing to get on. Again, fight back in front of the UK crowd will be always great. But yeah, I mean, I'm stoked to be on it, really.
Oh man, I'm stoked that you're on it too. Hey, so you're coming up fighting just a few days away here, June 17th. How's the weight feeling? How was training coming into this bout?
Yeah, training's been all good. Obviously, I'm touch wood injury free. Everything's good. Like I'm weighing about 82 kilos at the moment, so I'm kind of cruising light. So it's that odd thing of like, yeah, this week it's like, can't eat too much, but can't eat too little because I'll drop down too much. So it's kind of like just hovering really around, trying not to be too grumpy for the wife and kids and whatnot, but feel good and get out. It's been, I mean, to be fair, the weather's been good here, so I can't kind of complain too much. It's not dull and grey anymore.
And you gotta take the wins, right? It's fairly nice weather. That's all we can say here. So I'm living just in Scotland, so I understand that when it's sunny, we got to get out there, man.
yeah. So again, yeah, it's beautiful in Scotland when it's sunny, but yeah, the majority of the time, just like the UK, it is just grey and raining, basically.
And no, he's a bit of a submission specialist, but you were competing in submission competitions for the last little while. I know you had a big win in Polaris and stuff like that. What can we expect in this fight?
I mean, yeah, I generally feel like that is his strong point, is his submission and his chain submission as well. Obviously, against Cosmo, he did a great job of going high and then going to the legs and kind of bounce back and forth. Obviously, the third round choke, kind of, you almost feel like it was done in and good, but obviously Cosmo's one tough dude and managed to get out of it. So, I mean, yeah, it'll be piecing him up in the feet. Obviously, I've got kind of like a height and reach advantage. And again, it'll just be, I feel like I can submit him, he can submit me. But I mean, it'll be who's going to get their game off first and who can get to the more dominant position and kind of like start getting their stuff off.
Absolutely. Do you think so? The last fight you won by decision. Do you think it was just kind of breaking off some rust, or how did you feel in the last bout getting back in there? Did everything just feel like it should, or did you feel a little rusty?
No, I think felt like it should. Obviously, like for me, I got like a chest infection basically like 3 weeks out and end up having to go antibiotics. Like it's one of the ones where you just like, got a chest infection, you're like, well, I'll see if it clears in a week, and it kind of didn't clear in a week and a half. So you like go on antibiotics, you're on a week of antibiotics, and it kind of was better for the fight. A couple of times, I bless I ended up coughing on him and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm sorry, trying not to cough him. But I think there was a turning point in the fight where he basically stopped trying to just stop trying to not lose, basically. So it's that weird thing of like, it makes it very hard to get a lot off when the guy's just doing everything he can not to let anything happen, if that makes sense. So, but I mean, yeah. It went well. Obviously, I got the winner. It was dominant and stuff like that. But obviously, it's always annoying that I didn't get the finish. But it's what it is.
But June 17th. June 17th?
June 17th. I'll be looking for it.
Absolutely, man. So how was the family's reaction for you saying, I'm going to get back in there? I'm getting back in the ring, getting back in the cage. Was everyone very supportive, or was there a little bit of hesitation from people around you?
I think, again, that they knew I could do it, obviously, with kind of like the way I am and stuff like that. And obviously it was 100% probably after the surgery and kind of like how I perked back up after that, they were like, oh, okay, like, yeah, you're fine, kind of like you'd be able to do this. Rather than I imagine probably the years of where I was like just an ill person who was just a husk of a person was they're probably, well, hopefully he'll get back into. I mean, I guess they, just like me, they stay positive and they'd always want to kind of like hope for me to be able to do it. But you never know until kind of it all comes around and becomes good.
Well, yeah, but Crohn's disease is no joke, because my family is Italian, so like half of the families is naturally has Crohn's disease. So like it's a crazy thing of like, I don't know how you were competing in that time when your body actually wasn't picking up any nutrients from the food you were eating, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just Certainly it helps with a bit of weight loss as well towards the end of it. But yeah, it's the hard thing of like, there's the hard thing of like finding the balance of it. Obviously, like the harder it gets in training and the more you're kind of like restrained on your diet or kind of just had to eat certain things, like you kind of get iller and iller towards the fight. So the closer to the fight you get, like almost the worse your body starts handling itself, you know. But yeah, I had good fights while I was on it and bad fights while I had it as well. So I mean, you just take the good with the bad, really. Sometimes your body just doesn't want to do what you want to do it.
Man, it's just your attitude is so incredibly positive. Where does this come from? Like, is this something that you have to build up, or are you just naturally this positive?
I feel like I've always been like this, really. I mean, yeah, you just I love doing what we do. You know, I teach a fair bit now, so I love teaching. I've seen a couple of my guys not necessarily compete in MMA. Funnily enough, I have more grapplers under me rather than MMA guys. But I think that's that weird thing. I think most people come in and they try MMA and then they're like, oh, like I'll just do like a couple of years of grappling and then I'll go back to MMA. But I think grappling is just such a nice one where it's so easy and enjoyable for people to do. They're not kind of getting beat up or anything like that in a session. So they're just, you can go full out on someone and then still be fine afterwards. Obviously be tired, but not like, oh, it's going to be sore tomorrow. I got black eye. I got to go to work or something, you know? So yeah, but it's been enjoyable watching them compete and do their thing. So again, no high level stuff. We're probably like grassroots, just people doing it for the first time. So it's more enjoyable. It's almost more enjoyable that way as well.
Oh yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there, right? We'll get some high level grapplers out of the gym. It's pretty soon. It's coming, right?
Certainly. I mean, again, if they got the will for it and the enjoyment for it, like I don't see why not.
Well, one interesting thing that I was talking about with I forget who. Anyway, but I was kind of saying like striking sometimes feels like you're making it up as you go. Things feel a little bit like almost guesswork. Sometimes you really have to feint and do all this stuff. But grappling feels like you're following an order of operations. You know what I mean? You don't have to be very fast. You don't have to be very strong because you just like X leads to Y, leads to, A leads to. Am I wrong on that?
No, most certainly. And again, it's kind of what I guess Danaher and Gordon Ryan have started doing it massively, where they're like systemizing it, making a system out of it. You get, I can't remember this. There are some cool companies that do like flow charts now, which are quite cool to look at. And you're just like, yeah, I mean, you do this, and there's two options for it, and then it just spreads out from there, and you can just follow the line, and you're going to get to where you want to go. You know, rather there's not, like I said, striking can be a bit chaotic because it's just the nature of it. Obviously, it's that hard thing of like you see two good boxers. So to say, we get some good boxers in the gym, and you see two dudes doing boxing. Sometimes it literally like you've seen them shadow boxing in the warm up, and then they're in the kind of sparring round. They're doing stuff they do in shadow, and it just looks kind of like super cool. And you're just like super sly. You know, some of the slips, some of the pulls, the counters off of them can be done like that. But obviously, it's so much easier to do it in grappling. You know, like a novice can do it in grappling. Rather than bless it, like when you get a novice to do, like you're like, oh, just do some shadow boxing. It feels the most awkward thing in the world. You're like, I'm just meant to punch like this, right? And you're like, yeah, but you kind of got to get used to it and put some like, vim into it, or kind of like feel natural or make it look natural,
Well, it's a really interesting thing. I think like humans, because I still remember like my first few boxing classes where you throw an uppercut that starts at your knees and people are like, dude, you got it. You just fix this. But like striking almost isn't natural to the human body. Whereas like grappling, as soon as you start wrestling, you're just like, oh, I kind of know what's going on here. My body kind of recognizes this. Like, am I crazy here? Or you know what I mean?
No, 100%. I mean, you put like I grew up with two older brothers, but you took two boys together and they'll wrestle just naturally and be naturally going through positions, even not knowing what they are, rather than very rarely you're going to find them that they're taking a good high guard, they're throwing a good jab, they're putting their hip into their cross and stuff like that. It just doesn't naturally come. I mean, if people do strike, it's like a crazy windmill. They touch each other, and the minute people touch each other, you always have that thing of like they're just like magnets. They just start grappling. That's just what naturally happens.
It's just a crazy thing. But yeah, we're going to see some high level grappling upcoming here. Looking forward to the match. So what do you want next after? Let's say you get the finish, everything's looking ideal. Do you want a title shot right away, or do you feel like you need another fight in there?
I mean, I'll be fine for title shot. Obviously, they're running a tournament at the moment, which me and Lucas, my opponent, are the kind of replacement for. So ideally, I'd get in the tournament. It was annoying. I was meant to be in the tournament at the beginning, got injured at the beginning of the year, so I had to put it like that. And it's always one of the things, again, coming from like early day MMAs, the tournament scene was always just like the thing I wanted to be on. So to not be on it was obviously devastating. But I remember watching like old Valley to Know tournaments in like Brazil, or the old Pride tournaments were always great. I remember Mark Kerr fighting like 3-4 people on a night. It was just super cool. It would have been something like, even if it was like more than one fight on a night, it would still be like super cool to get into it, dude.
Oh man, the tournaments, like the one night tournaments, the storylines we got out of it. Like I still talk about Shogun's 2005 run,
No.
Vanderlei's 2003 run. Go ahead, talk us on this.
I mean, yeah, it was just incredible runs, you know. So just yeah, just so much more exciting almost about it being like tournament. Instead, I know in like the Pride ones, on those ones, they like you'd have like 1 or 2 fights, and then like you'd have 2 fights on the last show. You know, it's a bit like, I mean, I always remember again watching, he was on Eurosports, like watching the K1 ones, and it's the same thing. But I mean, they were literally like all the fights on one night normally, or they'd have like a first round, and then you'd have like 2 to 3 fights on one night. But they're just super cool. Like it was Ernesto Hoost, I remember watching against Bob Sapp. He lost against Bob Sapp, but beat him up so bad that Bob Sapp couldn't continue, and then he took Bob Sapp's place and then won it. And you're just like, oh yeah, just storylines where you're just like, man, it's just incredible, right?
Those early 2000 days where you get storylines like that of Ernesto Hoost losing and then winning the tournament that same night. What were these guys made of back then? You know what I mean? This stuff is insane.
Just incredible. And obviously, yeah, he's just one of the best in the world. Obviously, again, I always think of like Bob Sapp was just so tough in his early days. He was just incredible just because you couldn't, I mean, you didn't have a training partner like that. You'd never come up against something like that. And then again, like he fought smart in his first couple of fights of like, right, this is what I need to do. Rather than, I think towards the end, I mean, he was more in it for paydays towards the end. But like, he started being like, oh, I'll try be a stand-up guy. And it's like, no, you need to just pile in, push him into the corner, start wailing on. I mean, again, his fight with Nogueira actually in Pride was just one of the fantastic ones. That early one was just insane. I mean, Nogueira take just the pounding he took, and then obviously gets the armbar at the end. Just it's what I grew up watching, so it was just like I love seeing.
Man, he's opened the match with a pile driver. What the hell? This was insane.
Just like, no, I mean, I can understand his thought process. Like, oh, I'll just shoot, and then he can't like do something to me, and it turns out, yeah, he can. He'll just pick you up and just slam you on your head. You're just like the lawless MMA as well. It was like, probably nowadays they'd be like, oh, you can't do that. That's spike or something like that. But yeah, back in the day where they're just like, it doesn't matter. We'll have this match where there's like 120 or 150 pounds difference between these two people. So,
man, you know what's funny? I don't know if people recognize, like, you and I know it because we were kind of around then. We were young guys then. Pride and K1 had a little bit of like magic behind it because now we have a Dream existed and then Ryzen existed longer than Pride and K1 ever did. And it just hasn't had the same, or K1, I guess, is still around. And even then, it still hasn't captured that same like imagination, that same amazing thing. There was just something amazing about Pride and K1, right?
Oh, it was something again, like with the commentary crew as well for the Europeans with Bas Ruud and Stephen Quadro. There was, there was just. I feel like I would always feel like Pride would be my top show. It was always the one I loved the most, kind of thing. I think just because it had that kind of like larger than life feel, like even just from like the entrances and everything else they had kind of going on was just. Yeah, it was just larger than life.
It was just amazing, and it still carries over to today. And now with the Tipsport tournament that the OKTAGON is doing, what's crazy about it is I believe it's a 1-year tournament, but is 1 million euros is on the line. Can you tell us a little bit more about the big Grand Prix that they're hosting?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's fantastic. Obviously, it's kind of split between everyone, but obviously each round you kind of get through it, the pay gets higher and higher and higher. And again, it's just be something worth going in. Obviously, they've got arguably the best kind of like European welterweight roster as well. So it literally is all the best people from Europe in it. You know, and obviously there was a great submission on the last one. I can't remember the actual guy's name, but it was a cool open plaster as well, which again, you don't normally see those kind of finishes. Like he rolled through from almost like a back crucifix, caught the leg and finished an open plaster. So it's something you don't normally see it and made because open plasters are generally a good setup sweep one, but it's hard to get the finish on it. You know, so I mean, yeah, some real good guys there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I'll put all the links down below for where people can find the OKTAGON action. Everything will be down below. But let's round you out as a person, just getting to know you, some odds and ends here. I know you were a Tool fan back in the day. Are you still kind of listening to Tool now?
Yeah, a little bit.
What did you think of their newer album? It was a long wait in between albums, and most hardcore fans were a little let down. What were your feelings on the newer stuff?
It was okay. Again, I'm just a sucker for like old school stuff, a bit like with fighting and stuff like that. So it's like, I generally just stick to old stuff. Obviously, I'm always listening just to old music when I'm either training and stuff. Obviously, it's super eclectic. So I probably imagine the people training in the gym are always like, oh God, like what has he got on, the kind of thing. But
you like, play Lateralis and just like, no, it does 2 and then 4 and then you guys got to listen to this song.
Guys, stop. Everyone stop. Just listen to it. Right? So I mean, I'll enjoy it. That's the main thing, right?
And now, what about video? Yeah,
they'll love it. You know, they'll love to love it.
Oh, that's awesome stuff. And what about video games? Did you grow up playing video games at all?
Yeah, a fair bit and stuff. I obviously was, I think Sega Mega Drive is where I had originally and stuff. But again, like I had two older brothers, so kind of we always played it. I'm more like I guess into PC gaming now, so I like kind of like the historical kind of Total War franchises. I know there's a Starship Troopers Extermination game, which I just saw I think last week coming out. It's like pre-alpha, but obviously Starship Troopers was just a fantastic movie of just like satire and just enjoyment. And that just looks like a good fast-paced shooter. So I will probably pick that up after the kind of fight. Or if I get bored this week, I may well pick it up this week as well.
Oh man, I love it. The Total War games were so good back in the day. The Rome game was great, and I believe they're matching now with Warhammer. People have said like this is it.
They've got some Warhammer ones. I mean, it's hard because I've played them and stuff, and they are really decent games, but it kind of takes it almost like a more like Hero Hammer style one, because obviously your general's like now a dude, and he's got like mounts and legendary weapons and this and the other. So he's super tough. You can send that guy into like units of people rather than like. When you play it for a little bit, you're like, oh, it's really good, but I almost miss like just straight the historical one where like your general's part of a squad and like I don't know. There's something about the historical ones coming out. Obviously, I think the next one's going to be Pharaoh, so it'll be interesting to get on that. I think that's October. It's coming out.
Well, yeah, with RTS games, I'm not sure if, and I know people might criticize me for this because the gaming community is sometimes not chill about things, but I don't know if I like the hero system. Like when we did like Warcraft 3 to Starcraft 2, I was like, oh yeah, this is better because we got rid of the heroes. Now we're just back into playing the game. And like, am I wrong here?
No, it's kind of, I kind of always enjoyed like the Starcraft and Warcraft games and stuff. I obviously World of Warcraft was a complete different step in the wrong one, but like they were enjoyable. And it was good. I mean, Starcraft 2 was I sunk a lot of time into that. I remember oddly pre-ordering Starcraft 1. I remember when that came out and got on that and stuff. So, and then obviously getting the Brood War expansion when that came out. So there were games I loved. Obviously, I've never been good at playing online though. Anytime I've tried to play online, I just get like a flare rate. I'm like, well, this is nothing like playing the game normally.
But here's the thing: the online StarCraft, I sucked too. But the use map settings, there was like turret defense and sunken defense. There was a lot of fun stuff where, like, for a young guy, we could just waste an entire weekend playing games on StarCraft.
Build your own maps and stuff. I remember spending a fair bit of time in like a map editor. I don't think I ever played it, but I was just like, oh, this is so much to do. Like, I think the mod game nowadays is just crazy. Actually, obviously, I play a bit of Mount and Blade as well with some friends, and like the mod game for that's just intense. Like, Steam's quite an accessible kind of platform to be able to put mods on as well, just easily download them. Rather than obviously back in the day, it was like finding weird sites to get mods off what people have made. Obviously, now it's a lot more kind of accessible to kind of like change the game and get it the way you like as well.
Kids don't know how good they have it. Like, we have to open up. We didn't know if we were going to break the family computer or if it was going to work. Now on Steam, you just hit the little plus sign and your mod is good to go.
Yeah, you're like, I'm downloading something. I'm not going to tell mom and dad because I don't know what this is going to happen. So yeah, I mean, people are going to good nowadays, you know. And, that's the same on like, I guess on the MMA scene of like just having YouTube as a reference source to be able to look at techniques or moves is just insane. Obviously, like you see a move in the UFC or on a grappling contest, you're like, you quick search of it and you'll be able to find basically someone teaching it online. Rather than I think back in our day, it was more like you had gyms that had like secret techniques to a certain extent. They're like, oh, you can't show anyone not part of this gym the technique because no one knows about it. Yeah. Like, rather than nowadays, like it's open source basically. Everyone knows about everything, which is good. I think it's better in society. Oh
yeah. No, it's been quite a shift in the grappling world in terms of their attitude in the last little while, which is great to see. But okay, let's get you out of here. Last couple of questions here. What advice would you give to other people who are maybe now looking up to you as they are just starting the sport? What advice would you pass on to them?
Again, find a local gym, start training. Obviously, you've got, like we've just said, there's so much information out now on kind of YouTube. I mean, the thing I'm probably having with my students is find something and kind of like stick with being like, okay, like I want to get good in this position rather than like my friend Amos invested in me. He's always like sees the next kind of thing on Instagram and he's like, oh my god, this is so cool. And like, to be fair, he's got a damn good buggy choke now from this, but as well, like he's a little bit like going across too many techniques rather than just like sharpening what he's got and what he can do well, you know. But I mean, just stick with it. Find things that kind of work for you and your body type. Watch people. I mean, I always used to watching people who basically I considered how I wanted to fight, or I feel like I could fight like them, and then mimicking them and kind of copying them and going through kind of what they do best and finding it work well for me as well because it's how I wanted to compete on it.
Hey, absolutely. And now looking into the future a little bit, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself in the sport?
I mean, probably happily retired in 5 or 10 years. I'll be poised something else. But I mean, yeah, just enjoying life and having a good family and friends around me.
Absolutely. Last word goes to you, sir. Shout out who you need to shout out. Thank who you need to thank. Plug whatever you need to plug. Last word goes to you, sir.
Perfect. I mean, Time for Nutrition's always been a great one. Track Nutrition's always helped me as well make weights. So Time for is always the supplement side. Scramble official gear, always good to have good training gear. And then the Scar one, which again has helped kind of like, it's a scar massage tool. It's helped me kind of be able to get back to being able to moving and doing stuff well. So obviously scar tissue can kind of restrict a lot of things, and it's good to kind of get over that and get back to normal.
Hey, thanks so much for your time and best of luck this week, sir.
Thank you ever so much, man. I'll catch you soon, bro.
Absolutely, man.